Captain Li Jun walked slowly into the enormous room filled with strange creatures from across the galaxy. His hands were shaking a little as he looked around at all the different aliens sitting in their special seats. Some looked like giant insects, others were made of what seemed like living crystal, and a few floated in tanks filled with green liquid. This was his first time representing Earth at the Galactic Council, and he felt very small. The room was so big that Li Jun could barely see the other side. Hundreds of different species were talking to each other in languages that sounded like nothing he had ever heard before. Some made clicking sounds, others whistled, and a few seemed to communicate by changing colors. The air smelled strange too, like a mix of metal and flowers that made his nose wrinkle. A tall creature made of blue crystal stood up at the front of the room. This was the Chancellor, the most important being in the galaxy, according to Earth's briefing files. When the Chancellor spoke, his voice echoed like someone talking inside a cave. "We will now hear from the new worlds that want to join our great empire," the Chancellor announced. "First is the small planet called Earth." Li Jun noticed how the Chancellor had to look at his notes just to remember Earth's name. Most of the aliens in the room were not even paying attention. Some were still talking to each other, and others were looking at their communication devices. It was clear that nobody thought Earth was very important. Li Jun stood up and walked to the center of the room. A bright light shone down on him, making him feel like he was on stage. He could feel hundreds of alien eyes looking at him. But most seemed bored or annoyed that they had to waste time listening to him. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Li Jun began, reading from his prepared speech. "Earth is grateful for this opportunity to join your great civilization. We are a peaceful planet with about 8 billion people." A creature that looked like a giant slug made a sound that his translator told him meant laughter. Another alien, covered in scales like a dragon, yawned so loudly that everyone could hear it. The Chancellor looked at his data pad with no interest. Yes, Earth. Population, primitive. Technology, backward. Resources, none of value. Your planet offers nothing useful to our empire, but we suppose you can join if you follow all our rules. Li Jun felt his face get red with embarrassment. He had expected this meeting to be difficult, but he had not expected to be dismissed so quickly. The briefing files from Earth had told him that first impressions were very important, but it seemed like the Galactic Council had already decided that Earth was worthless. "Actually, honored Chancellor," Li Jun said, trying to keep his voice steady, "I should mention something about our planet that might interest you." The Chancellor looked up from his data pad with an annoyed expression. "What could your primitive world possibly have that we would find interesting?" Li Jun took a deep breath. "Well, Earth is mostly covered in water. About 70% of our planet's surface is liquid water. We have vast oceans, thousands of rivers, and millions of lakes. It rains regularly in most places, so we have plenty of fresh water too." The moment he finished speaking, something very strange happened. The enormous room became completely silent. Every single conversation stopped at exactly the same time. The floating creatures stopped moving. The crystal beings stopped glowing. Even the mechanical aliens stopped making their usual humming sounds. Li Jun looked around in confusion. He had expected maybe some polite interest, but this reaction was completely unexpected. Every alien in the room was staring at him with what looked like shock on their faces, or at least what he thought was shock, since alien faces were hard to read. A creature from the back of the room stood up slowly. It looked like a tree made of metal and spoke in a voice like wind blowing through leaves. Did the human just say, "Water? Liquid water?" asked another voice from somewhere in the crowd. "Natural, flowing water," whispered a third. The Chancellor's crystal form began to glow much brighter than before. His voice, when he spoke, was no longer bored but filled with something that sounded like amazement or maybe fear. "Human representative," the Chancellor said very carefully. "Are you claiming that your planet has naturally occurring liquid water in large quantities?" Li Jun was getting more confused by the second. "Yes, that's correct. We have 4 major oceans and thousands of smaller bodies of water. Is that unusual?" The silence that followed was so complete that Li Jun could hear his own heartbeat. Then, all at once, the entire assembly erupted into chaos. Aliens began shouting in their own languages, jumping up from their seats and pushing toward him. Communication devices were beeping and flashing everywhere as news of his statement began spreading to other parts of the galaxy. Lee Jun stood in the center of it all, still completely confused about why mentioning water had caused such an incredible reaction. He had no idea that he had just announced the most important discovery in galactic history. Within just 2 hours of Captain Lee Jun's announcement, the news about Earth's water had traveled to every corner of the galaxy. On the dry planet of Zerion, where people had not seen rain for over 3,000 years, crowds gathered around public screens to watch the impossible footage of Earth's oceans. Many of them fell to their knees and cried when they saw waves crashing on beaches. Dr. Kim Hana sat in her laboratory in Seoul, watching the galactic news feeds with growing amazement. Her computer screen showed reports from dozens of different worlds, all talking about the same thing. On Kalos Prime, the desert world where a single cup of water cost more than most people earned in a month, riots had broken out in the streets. People were demanding to know why their government had never told them that worlds with abundant water actually existed. "This is incredible," Kim Hana said to her assistant Park Min, who was monitoring communications from space. "Look at this. Report from the Zentorian Empire. Their entire stock market has crashed overnight." Park Min looked up from his screen with wide eyes. "Dr. Kim, it gets stranger. The Zentorian royal family just sent us a message. They want to visit Earth, and they are offering us their most advanced technology in exchange for what they call the divine experience of natural rainfall." Kim Hana shook her head in disbelief. The Zentorians were one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They had technology that was thousands of years ahead of Earth's. The idea that they would trade it all just to feel rain seemed impossible to believe. Meanwhile, on the industrial world of Mechanis, factory workers who had spent their entire lives drinking recycled water were watching telescope images of Earth's Pacific Ocean. The sight of so much pure, clean water in one place was making many of them physically sick with longing. Some were calling in sick to work just so they could keep watching the images. Commander Park Hyun was in the Earth Defense Command Center, trying to make sense of all the incoming messages. His communication board was flashing with so many signals that it looked like a Christmas tree. Every few minutes, another alien civilization was sending requests, offers, or demands related to Earth's water. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Kim Bo, looking overwhelmed by the data streaming across her screen. "We have received formal diplomatic requests from 43 different star systems in the last hour. They all want the same thing." "Which is, Commander?" Park asked, though he was starting to guess the answer. "They want to establish trade agreements for our water. Some are offering advanced medical technology. Others are promising military protection. The Draconian Federation is offering to share their faster-than-light travel technology if we give them exclusive rights to one of our smaller oceans." Commander Park sat down heavily in his chair. Earth had always been considered a backward, unimportant world by the galactic community. Human technology was primitive compared to most alien civilizations. Earth had no rare minerals, no advanced weapons, and no strategic importance. But apparently, they had been sitting on the most valuable substance in the galaxy without even knowing it. On the planet Aquarius 7, which was completely covered in ice, the planetary government was holding an emergency session. Their people had survived for millennia by melting tiny amounts of ice each day, carefully rationing every drop. The idea that somewhere in the galaxy was a world where water fell freely from the sky seemed like a fairy tale. "We must send an expedition to this Earth immediately," declared their High Council leader. "Our people have the right to see this miracle with their own eyes." Back on Earth, Dr. Kim Hana was beginning to understand the full scale of what was happening. She had spent her career studying alien biology and culture, but she had never imagined anything like this. Her research showed that most alien civilizations had evolved on worlds with very little water. They had built their entire societies around conserving and recycling every precious drop. "Park Min," she called to her assistant, "pull up the files. On galactic resource distribution. I want to understand why water is so rare." Park Min worked quickly on his computer. According to the Galactic database, liquid water exists naturally on less than 1% of inhabited worlds. Most civilizations get their water from ice mining, atmospheric extraction, or complex recycling systems. Natural rainfall is considered a mythical phenomenon by most species. Kim Hana felt a chill run down her spine. Earth's weather patterns, which humans had always taken for granted, were apparently miraculous by galactic standards. Every rainstorm, every river, every lake was something that most aliens had never seen and never expected to see. Her communication device chimed with an urgent message from Captain Lee Jun, still at the Galactic Council station. "Dr. Kim, you need to prepare for visitors, lots of them. I count at least 50 different alien fleets heading toward Earth's solar system. They all want to see our water for themselves." Kim Hana looked out her laboratory window at the Han River, flowing peacefully through Seoul. In just a few hours, Earth had gone from being an ignored backwater planet to being the most important world in the galaxy. She wondered if humanity was ready for what was coming next. The rain began to fall outside her window, and for the first time in her life, she truly understood how precious each drop really was. Captain Lee Jun's small apartment on Luna Station had become the busiest place in the solar system. His waiting room, which used to be empty most days, was now packed with alien diplomats from across the galaxy. Some sat in chairs that had been specially made for their strange body shapes, while others floated in the air or stood perfectly still like statues. Lieutenant Kim Min hurried into the room with another stack of requests. "Captain, the Zentaurian royal family has arrived. They brought their entire court with them, including their children who have never seen liquid water. They are waiting in Docking Bay 7 with what they call offerings of gratitude." Lee Jun rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept in 3 days, because alien delegations kept arriving at all hours. "What kind of offerings?" "Technology blueprints, rare metals, and something they call a star map to peaceful worlds. They seem to think we are gods because we live on a water planet." Through his window, Lee Jun could see the incredible sight that had been growing for the past week. Hundreds of alien ships surrounded Earth like a massive metal cloud. Some were beautiful and elegant, shaped like flowers or birds. Others were clearly military vessels with weapons that could destroy entire cities. All of them had come for the same reason. Ambassador Choi Soo entered the room with urgent news. "Captain, we have a serious problem developing. The Corvan Dominion just entered our solar system with their entire battle fleet." Their message was very clear. They claim water rights over Earth by what they call superior military strength. Lee Jun felt his stomach drop. The Corvans were known throughout the galaxy as conquerors who took what they wanted by force. If they decided to invade Earth for its water, there was very little humanity could do to stop them. On Earth's surface, people were beginning to see the first alien visitors. President Yang Min had authorized limited tourist visits to help calm the situation, but the results were both wonderful and terrifying to watch. In Busan, a group of crystalline beings from the Helix Nebula stood on the beach during low tide, crying tears that looked like liquid diamonds as they touched seawater for the first time. Dr. Kim Hana was leading a group of alien scientists to Niagara Falls. The delegation included researchers from 12 different worlds, all of whom specialized in water conservation and recycling. When they saw the massive waterfall, 3 of them fainted from shock. "This much water, just falling," whispered a tree-like alien from Verdania. "On our world, this amount of water would supply our largest city for 50 years. A small alien that looked like a walking cactus was using a special device to collect samples of the mist from the falls. "My people must see this," it said through its translator. "We have lived our entire civilization believing that water scarcity was a natural law of the universe. Meanwhile, in orbit around Earth, the situation was becoming more dangerous by the hour." Captain Park Hyun was monitoring the alien fleets from the newly built Space Traffic Control Center. His screen showed ships from over 60 different civilizations, many of which had been enemies for centuries. "Sir," reported Sergeant Lee Bo, "we have 3 separate incidents of alien ships threatening each other. The Draconian Federation is accusing the Vorthan Empire of trying to establish illegal mining claims on our ice caps. The Aquarian Collective is demanding that all military vessels leave the system immediately. Park Hyun watched as two alien warships moved into aggressive positions near Mars. Are they seriously about to start a war over our water while they are sitting right next to our planet? The answer came quickly when energy weapons began charging on both ships. Only emergency diplomatic messages from Earth prevented the first battle of what historians would later call the Water Wars. Down on Earth, President Yang Min was meeting with his newly formed crisis management team. The room was filled with military officials, scientists, and diplomats, all trying to figure out how to handle the most unusual situation in human history. The numbers are staggering, reported Defense Minister Kim Seo. We estimate over 10 million aliens have requested permission to visit Earth. Most just want to see rain or touch natural water, but some are making demands for permanent access to our oceans. Dr. Kim Hana joined the meeting by video link from Niagara Falls. Mr. President, I think we are missing the real opportunity here. These civilizations have technologies and knowledge that could advance humanity by thousands of years. Instead of just selling them water, what if we taught them how to find water on their own worlds? The president looked interested. Explain that idea, Dr. Kim. Our geological surveys are very advanced by galactic standards. Most of these alien worlds probably have underground water sources that they never found, because they assumed water was impossible to locate. We could become the galaxy's water-finding experts instead of just its water suppliers. Outside the meeting room, the first drops of an afternoon thunderstorm began to fall. For the first time in human history, rain was being watched by millions of alien eyes, each drop seen as a miracle that might change the balance of power across the entire galaxy. The morning started badly when Commander Park Hyun woke up to red warning lights flashing throughout the Earth Defense Command Center. His staff was running between computer stations, all talking at once about the crisis that had developed overnight. Sir, the Corvan Dominion has positioned their warships directly above our major cities, reported Sergeant Lee Bo, pointing to the tactical display. They sent an ultimatum 30 minutes ago. They want immediate and unlimited access to our oceans, or they will begin what they call resource extraction operations. Park Hyun looked at the screen showing dozens of massive alien warships hanging in the sky above New York, London, Tokyo, and Seoul. Each ship was large enough to carry thousands of soldiers and had weapons that could level entire city blocks. The sight made his hands shake with anger and fear. What about the other alien fleets? Are they supporting the Corvans? Lieutenant Kim Min checked her communications board. No, sir. It's actually getting worse. The Draconian Federation is threatening to attack the Corvans if they try to take our water by force. The Zentorian Empire says they will defend Earth, because we are sacred guardians of the holy water. We have 17 different species pointing weapons at each other right above our heads. Meanwhile, Captain Lee Jun was trapped on his space station as alien diplomats argued loudly in the corridors around his apartment. Through his window, he could see the flashing lights of weapons charging on various ships. His communication device was ringing constantly with desperate messages from Earth and threatening demands from different alien factions. A tall, armored Corvan general had forced his way into the station and was now standing in Lee Jun's office. The alien was nearly 3 meters tall and covered in black metal armor that made him look like a walking tank. Human representative, the general said through his translator. Your people have exactly 6 hours to agree to our terms. We will take one of your oceans as payment for protecting your pathetic world from other species who want to steal your water. Lee Jun tried to keep his voice steady. General, Earth's oceans belong to humanity. We are willing to negotiate fair trade agreements, but we will not surrender our territory. The Corvan general laughed, a sound like metal grinding against stone. Your primitive weapons cannot hurt our ships. Your choice is simple. Give us what we want or we will take it. Down on Earth, Dr. Kim Hana was working frantically in her laboratory, trying to find a solution that could prevent a war. She had been studying the geological data from dozens of alien worlds, looking for patterns that might help humanity negotiate from a position of strength rather than weakness. I think I found something important, she told President Yang Min during their emergency video conference. Most of these alien civilizations never developed advanced geological survey techniques because they assumed water was impossible to find. But according to our deep space sensor data, at least 40% of their homeworlds probably have underground water reserves. The president looked hopeful for the first time in days. Are you saying we could help them find water on their own planets? Exactly. Instead of fighting over Earth's water, we could teach them how to locate their own. We become partners instead of victims. But before Dr. Kim could explain her plan further, alarms began sounding throughout Seoul. People looked up to see the dark shadows of Corvin warships moving into attack positions above the city. Ambassador Choi Soo was in the United Nations building in New York, trying to coordinate humanity's response with world leaders. The situation was unlike anything in scientific human history. Earth had no weapons that could damage the alien ships, no military alliance that could protect them, and no experience dealing with interstellar politics. The Corvins have given us 2 more hours, she reported to the Emergency Council. But here's the strange part. 3 other alien civilizations have offered to fight the Corvins for us. The problem is, if we accept their help, we become dependent on them instead. President Yang Min made the hardest decision of his life. Send a message to all alien fleets in our system. Tell them Earth is calling for a peace summit. We want to propose a solution that benefits everyone. Sir, asked Defense Minister Kim Seo, what if the Corvins refuse to negotiate? Then we implement Dr. Kim's plan immediately. We offer to share our water-finding technology with every civilization, except the Corvins. Let them choose between getting water through cooperation or through conquest. Above Earth, the various alien fleets received humanity's message. The Corvin general was furious that humans were trying to negotiate instead of surrendering. He ordered his ships to prepare for bombardment. But something unexpected happened. The Zentaurian royal family sent an urgent message to all ships in the system. Any species that attacks the sacred water guardians will be considered enemies of the Zentaurian Empire forever. Similar messages came from the Draconian Federation, the Aquarian Collective, and even some smaller civilizations. The Corvins suddenly found themselves outnumbered 50-1 by species who were willing to fight to protect Earth. The standoff continued as the clock ticked toward the Corvin deadline, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance above the clouds. The first Galactic Peace Summit in recorded history was held in Busan, South Korea, during the monsoon season. As alien delegates experienced their first natural rainfall, centuries of interstellar politics shifted in a matter of hours. Captain Lee Jun stood before the assembled representatives, no longer the nervous rookie from months before. The Terran Water Accord establishes Earth as the galactic center for water location and development technology. In exchange for our expertise and limited resource sharing, we request guaranteed sovereignty and mutual defense agreements. The Corvin general, whose species hadn't seen rain in 4,000 years, was openly weeping as droplets fell on his armor. We accept these terms, he managed through his translator. Dr. Kim Hana smiled as she watched former enemies working together on her geological survey teams. The Draconians' mining expertise combined with human water-finding techniques had already located 3 new aquifers in the neighboring Centauri system. 1 year later, Earth had transformed from a forgotten backwater into the galaxy's economic and political center. The Universal Water Development Institute, headquartered in Seoul, employed thousands of humans and aliens working together. Commander Park Hyun stood in his new office overlooking the Han River, watching alien children play in the rain for the first time in their lives. His communication device chimed with another request, this time from a distant galaxy that had heard rumors of the water planet. As thunder rolled across the sky, he smiled and reached for his response pad. Humanity had finally found their place among the stars, not through conquest or superior technology, but through sharing the one thing they had never realized was precious: